Jackson, the Spiderhouse bartender, wanted bigger muscles. He was tired of having to strain every time he picked up the water cooler and being mocked by his friend and coworker George, who was quite buff. George said Jackson should join him at the gym, but Jackson wasn't into that. Jackson had a master's degree in biomedical engineering from Duke University. Ask him about it. And he enlisted some quick genetic engineering and replaced his human arms with the arms of a grizzly bear. And the next time he challenged George to an arm wrestling match, it was no contest. Jackson won 3 out of 3 and left claw marks in the back of George's hand. George was not to be outdone. He was also interested in genetic engineering, having obtained a PhD in biomedical engineering from Johns Hopkins with an emphasis on biochem while going to bartending school at night. So, George got himself a pair of gorilla arms, which, as you know, can lift over 2 tons of bananas. And not only did this move multiply his bartending skills by 10, but he also swept all 3 sets the next time he and Jackson arm wrestled. So, Jackson replaced his arms with sharks, not shark fins, literally sharks, which, as you know, have teeth and mouths for hands. And the next time they had an arm wrestling match, Jackson's shark arms bit George's gorilla arms clean off. Now George was pissed, and he said, screw genetic engineering, I want some good old regular engineering. So he replaced his arms with automatic machine guns, and he broke a lot of bottles, but he also killed Jackson's shark arms while saying something like, how do you like these guns? And Jackson was like, fuck that, and he replaced his arms with 2 nuclear bombs. Now at this point in the story, I want to pause to take a quick audience poll. Setting aside the fact that that sounds fucking badass, raise your hand if you actually think it would be cool for a person to have a nuclear bomb. It's a small minority. And if you didn't raise your hand, then you agree that an average citizen doesn't have the right to own a nuclear weapon. Therefore, you agree that our constitutional right to bear arms should be limited at some level. Now, we just have to agree where that level is. So anyway, back to the story. Jackson has nuclear weapons for arms, and George was like, whoa! And Jackson was like, what? I got a dead man switch. And George was like, maybe we let this arms race get a little out of hand. And Jackson was like, you're right. Maybe we should just go back to grizzly bear arms. And George was like, you're right. Grizzly bear arms are pretty badass too. So they both went back to regular sized bear arms, which were more than enough to slay their enemies, impress their friends, and play to a draw every time they arm wrestled.